Good evening, everyone. Myself, Samiksha Savan, interning with the Nature Sci, welcome you all for the today's webinar on urban green spaces and wetland conservation. Before we begin with our program, I would like to introduce our organization and my team members present here. We have with us Amrita Tripathi, Aman Bishwas from our core team, Ishita Tiwari, our team guide, and my fellow interns, Ishwari Rajan, Renu Meena, Vaidhi Suratia, Abir Ghosh, and Alok Kumar. The Nature Sci, powered by Wildlife Arc, is a group of nature enthusiasts who wish to share their knowledge and experience with the world. We strive to bring informative and educational content from the tiny living world to the city dwellers. Our motto is to empower environmentalists everywhere, which aims to create opportunities for the budding environmentalists, people in nature related fields, and also the one who want to join us newly to this nature adventure through our various online and offline programs. This webinar is one such attempt to connect people with the nature within our training and internship program, which we are part of. There are a number of such events in line as well. You can visit our website or connect us on our social media pages mentioned on the screen. We would like to inform you that we are having 3 days workshop on QGIS with hands-on exercise in the month of August, about which we will further inform you at the end of the session. So stay tuned. Now coming to our today's event, webinar on urban green spaces and wetlands conservation. We will learn about advancements in conservation of urban green spaces and wetlands, their role and impact on human activities on them. So to enlighten us and give us new insight of urban green spaces and wetlands, today we have with us Dr. Sashireka Suresh Kumar ma'am as our speaker. Dr. Sashireka is a botanist and a mycologist. She is a PhD guide. She is a retired HOD and associate professor of botany department of Mithibai College, Mumbai University. Welcome, ma'am. We are glad to have you with us as a speaker today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
So we will start our webinar session. Before that, I request all the participants to keep their mics on mute. And if you have any questions or queries, please feel free to write them in the chat box. All the queries and questions will be answered by the end of the webinar. Welcome once again. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much. I will just share my screen. Before, I think you'll have to stop sharing yours so that I can share it. Can you hear me clearly? Yeah. Okay, before I share my screen, I just wanted to thank Nature's Eye for inviting me for this talk. And it's a slightly different thing. Biodiversity I teach of plants, and this is overall. So I hope I am able to share whatever I have learned and been teaching all these years. Yeah, if I'm going a little technical, please let me know if it is too technical. Okay. I've tried to be as simple as possible. Yeah, I'll share my screen. One second. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. Today I'll be speaking on urban green spaces and wetland conservation. Okay. So urban green spaces itself indicates that it's a new type of ecosystem. So I thought I would also start with the original, the natural. there's some disturbance. Okay. Right. So we'll be also looking through what was already existing on our planet, and then we'll go into the, I think the audience should be keeping their mute audio on mute so that I'm able to continue. Yeah. Okay. So I'll start off with the basic types of ecosystem, the major type of ecosystem that is already existing and what has happened to them, and what are the new things that have been added onto it. So it will be, we'll be able to understand. And I believe the audiences of MSc students of environmental science, that's what I was given to understand. So I think it should be convenient for you to understand when I'm talking through my slides. So urban green spaces means that the green spaces or the vegetation which are there in the urban areas, and wetland conservation. So these are two different things which I'll be handling it in a different manner. Okay. So the basic types of ecosystem that we know. One second, someone is annotating. I think these things will have to be stopped and controlled by the organizers, please.
Yes, ma'am. I have muted all the participants.
Not the muting. Someone is scribbling the annotation. You just have to disable that so that the.
Okay, sure, ma'am.
Yeah,
Sure,
yeah.
ma'am. I'll disable the annotation.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay. So the basic type of ecosystem. Now we all are science students, and we know the food chain and all these, that the food is prepared by the producers. That's the green plants, and that's the major nutrient pool, and that is consumed by the consumers. And the decomposers, they decompose the dead decaying material and release the nutrients back into the atmosphere. Okay, and then this is the basic food chain that happens in every ecosystem. Now what we have to try and understand, that on the earth's surface we have a number of such many so many ecosystems that together form the big biome or a big home, that is the biosphere. And the biosphere is not made up of just one forest or something. It's all the ecosystems put together, which has an effect on the climate. So every ecosystem is connected. That we must very clearly understand. And each of them is described as a habitat. Each forest is a habitat, grassland is a habitat, and so on. So all these habitats put together make a very big home, or the biosphere. So in this image, where you can see that Earth is a giant ecosystem, and that's all put together, which interacts with the planet, and then is able to sustain life, all the life that is present on the biosphere. So as Odom has, sorry, the habitat, this is a habitat approach, or the ecosystem approach, as I should say, since we are talking about urban ecosystem. I'll come to that, why it is urban ecosystem. We are talking about the habitat. Now these are several micro ecosystems working in a geographical region, and this region, each one is represented as a biome. Biome is nothing but a home of biotic organisms. If I have to split them, it's a home of biotic organisms. So Odom, he defines this as regional climates interact with regional biotic and substrate to produce large, easily recognizable community units, which are called as biomes. Okay, so that is the basic thing which we have to understand about the habitat. And this is an interaction between the plants, animals, and the microbes, which in turn interact with the abiotic, that's a climatic condition. So it is very important to understand that the climate as well as the biotic component are interactive, interdependent and interactive. And so it's very necessary that we have to understand each and every component to understand what's happening in the ecosystem and how to conserve it and so on. So not going into too much of details of these, I'll just tell you how the different types of ecosystem that are present here. We have the forest, grasslands, desert, man engineered is the fourth one that has got added onto it because of the interferences or the activities that man has carried out in the natural ecosystems for his own survival, obviously. So and this has created new types of ecosystem because of these kind of activities. Okay, so these forests, grasslands, deserts, and the aquatic, these are the terrestrial ecosystems, and you have the aquatic ecosystems also. Now, in these aquatic ecosystems, you have the freshwater aquatic or the water, the ecosystem which have excess water, and in that you have the different types of plants and animals and the decomposer community which are existing there. In the same way, in marine ecosystem, that's the salt water ecosystem. So you in aquatic ecosystem, you have two types of ecosystems, which is the freshwater, which is inland, and marine, which is in the sea and bordering the continents. Okay, and depending on the amount of rainfall that is available in the different parts of the Earth's surface, there are different types of vegetation, and on the basis of the vegetation, the ecosystem is defined. So this is just a broad kind of explanation I'm giving of the entire biome. Okay, now there are various types depending on the microclimatic conditions. So you have these obviously you have learned about the climatic zones on the earth. This definitely is being taught to you during the schools. Okay, that there's this equatorial zone, the tropical zone, the temperate zone, and so on, depending on the incidence of the sunlight on the earth's surface. And when you move from the equator to the poles, the temperature drops, and accordingly the temperature changes, and also the precipitation. So temperature and the precipitation is very important for the plants to grow. Okay, so you have different types of plants which are having the specific requirements, and therefore you have the different types of forest or different types of vegetation, and subsequently the different types of animal community. And very importantly, we have to understand that the microbial population are equally important as the animals and plants, because we have three kingdoms. It's not just two kingdoms, it's plant kingdom, animal kingdom, and the microbial, that's the fungal kingdom. Bacterial community is also there, but then fungus is another kingdom. Earlier fungus was the fungi were put along with plants, but now they are given a specific status, a separate status of kingdom. Okay, so you have these three groups which are running the life on the surface of the earth, if I have to use that word. Okay. So we have different types of ecosystem here. I won't be going into details of different types. I'll be sticking to what is for the specific topic today. But to understand that, we have to know these different types of ecosystems. So here you have the rainforest, which is having a very thick tree population. That is it's having high temperature, high rainfall, and high content of organic matter in the soil. So there is a lot of tree growth present in the rainforest, and so you have major population of the different species of trees. And then according to the amount of precipitation, you have the changes as you proceed from the equator to the pole. So you have the deciduous forest, then you have the dry deciduous forest, then you have the thorn type of forest where it is more open, and it's more drier type of forest. And then you have grasslands where the water table is a little higher, and higher in the sense there's not much of depth in the soil, so you have only the grass species growing there, and there will be the trees, if at all it is present, it will be in a scattered manner. Okay, now these are a different kind of a setup. So you have different type of plant species growing, and then related animals that will be seen there and in that. So here we have just different types of vegetation that are seen in our country, in the Indian subcontinent. Okay, now we are very fortunate in India to be having almost all the kinds of ecosystems that are available to us without having to visit, without having to take a passport to visit these places, because it's available in our country itself. Now, as you can see here, The peninsular part is flanked by the three oceans, that is the Arabian Sea, Bay of Bengal, and the Indian Ocean. So we are having the coastal vegetation along the peninsular region, and also parts of these continents which are touching the sea or which are in connection with the sea. Okay, then in this place, that is the western region and the eastern, that's the Western Ghats and the Eastern Ghats, experience a very the first downpour of the southwest monsoon winds on the west and the northeast monsoon winds in the east. Now these are like total downpour, so you have a evergreen forest which are present here in this part. Okay, so and different patches, wherever there is heavy rainfall, you have the evergreen forest. And across the Ghats, across the mountains, when the rain crosses inland, the water is a little less. So you have the tropical deciduous type of vegetation and the drier forests that are present in the inlands. Then that is one thing. And then on the northern side, you have this Himalayan range, which is protecting us from the actual, that is a true frost, true winter. We don't experience true winter. The severe winter, I should say. It is true winter, obviously. The severe winter is protected by the Himalayan range, but still we have the coniferous type of forest seen on the mountains of the Himalaya. Okay, so the temperate type of forest is also, we are able to visit there. So if you go to Manali or Rohtang or Sikkim and all these places, if you visit there on the mountain, means you have to go go up the mountain. Altitudinally, you will see the changes of the vegetation as you would see from the equator to the pole. The same kind of change in vegetation is seen. So you have these Himalayan moist type of moist temperate forest, subalpine forest, and dry evergreen forest. So we are able to see it in the mountains of Himalaya. And then in this region, that is the Rajasthan and part of Gujarat and Punjab, we have the drier part. By the time the rainfall comes here, it's so scanty that vegetation is absolutely dry. So you have the thorn and the deserts, desert type of vegetation here. So you have these varied kind of ecosystem that are present here, and almost major types of ecosystems are seen in our country. Okay, now what I'm trying to tell here is it is possible for us to study the ecosystem. Obviously, the vegetation, the plants that are growing there is going to be different depending on the amount of rainfall and the type of soil, type of soil that is present there. And this also matters, that the water table, whether it is very deep or very more closer to the ground. Okay, so that matters. So accordingly, there will be vegetations. And in our country, that is in India, we don't have true grasslands. But in certain places, wherever the grasses are present, they are either grown as a pasture land, or maybe a small patch of land which is covered by grass. But that doesn't mean it's true grassland. True grasslands are not present in India. Okay, so that much about the ecosystem that we have in India. Oh, what happened? I don't know what happened. 1 second. I am not able to operate. That's what's happened. Are you able to hear me? Huh? I don't know what's wrong. Oh God. There's something opened here. Are you able to see my screen still? Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes,
there
ma'am.
was
Your
something
screen
else which
is
came up on
visible.
my, something else came up on my screen, so I could not see it.
Okay, ma'am. So right now the Indian forest type screen is visible.
Hello, did I go off? Did I get disconnected?
Yes, ma'am. Your screen is not visible right now, and your voice
I'll have to
went off.
share again. Yeah,
Yes,
I'll
ma'am.
share again. I don't know what happened. There's something.
Yeah, there was some sort of network issue.
Yeah. Wait, I'll just share it again. Okay. Now can you see it?
Yes, ma'am. Now we can see it.
Okay. Yeah. Now see, since the topic is wetland ecosystems and urban green spaces, I'll just explain what are the different types of wetland ecosystem that are existing. Now, wetland ecosystem means there is going to be excess of water, and that is seen on the habitat. So that's why we call it as a wetland. Okay, so and there are different types of ecosystem like that. So you have the rivers, streams, lakes, ocean, ponds, and so on. All these are different types of wetlands, and also the ones which don't show excess water and they are marshy. They are marshy and they are also they are also categorized as wetlands. Okay, so here, as you can see here, um, the river is flowing from the source of the river is on the top, that is on the top of the mountain, and the river comes down, and then it leads it gets it branches out into different tributaries, and ultimately it reaches the ocean. So that's how the flow of the river is. So the entire river, as it passes through the different places, in certain places, most of the places the water gets drained into the soil. It may totally get drained and the soil above will be dry, but in some places it gets soaked and it remains waterlogged. Okay, those types of waterlogged soil is also described as a wetland. Okay, so they may be on the mountain, they may be on the plains, and wherever such type of soil is present, that is the clay content is present in the soil, that will be having a waterlogged situation, and the vegetation, the plants that grow in such type of soil itself will be it itself will be a different type, and then accordingly you have the different species of animals that visit that vegetation. Okay, just for an example, you all have heard of insectivorous plants, right? Insectivorous plants are present only in some parts in the Assam evergreen forest. Now, evergreen forest is having a dense vegetation. There will be heavy rainfall there. Chirapunji and Chirapunji is supposed to be the higher region where the highest rainfall is available. Okay, so there in some places, in some pockets, there are these waterlogged situation, and there you have these different types of insectivorous plants like sundew plants and Dionia. There's a Venus flytrap and Nepenthes, that is pitcher plant. Now, why are they catching the insects? Because they are not having access to the nitrates which will be present in the soil because of the waterlogged condition. Okay, because they are not able to access protein, if I have to say that. Nitrogen makes protein. Okay, so that nitrates are not easily available to it in the soil, so it shifts to the protein that is present in the nitrogen that is present in the protein of the animal body. So it catches the animals, and that's the insects, and then feeds on the nitrogen part, that is the protein part. So you can see even inside the forest, which is having a general tropical type of climate there, because of this change in the waterlogging condition, the excess water condition, that marshy soil is having these type of plants which are having specific mode of nutrition. That is the predation. Okay, that's just an example. So here, even in the bigger ecosystem, that is a forest ecosystem or a grassland ecosystem, you may have these small micro ecosystem that are existing. Okay, so the marshy type is also the wetland. So we have to actually take care of all the, know about all these types of
in the handbag only.
Water ecosystem, which is, wetland ecosystem that are present there. So here, as you can see, the lands are shallow in wetlands. Water covers for at least part of the year. Okay. Covers for at least major part of the year. It covers the soil, so it remains wet. So it has different characteristic soil as well as the vegetation. So then the soil will be having clayey content more, and the vegetation will be accordingly modified there. Then yeah, so here also, see, in case of marine ecosystem, the water, instead of being fresh water, it's going to be salt water. So that's going to matter a lot. In case of the wetlands which are present in the near the ocean, or which are in such a situation where the fresh water and the salt water meets, that is the estuarine condition, then the salt content is high. NaCl salt content is high. It's a mix. So you have a change in the water, and that is also going to change the nutritional availability in the soil which is present there. The soil will be marsh, but the water is having salt content. So you have a different type of plants growing there, which are called as the mangrove plants. The mangrove plants are growing in the saltwater marshes, whereas you have the other type of marshy plants which are growing inland, which is the freshwater condition. So these are two major types of wetland that we have, and both these wetlands are major source of water for the remaining habitats, remaining ecosystems. Okay, that is the thing. So here you have the Sundarbans, which are present in Bengal, where this is another major mangrove ecosystem which is there, and it's a tiger habitat. It's a tiger habitat. That means you have, since it is closer to the forest, and here also you have a forest of mangrove trees, especially mainly the rhizophora species. You have tigers which are residing in this type of forest. The Sundarbans are known for it, and Sundarbans are so called because of the Sundari trees, which are dominant here. Then you have these littoral swamp forests which are present in the intertidal zones. Okay, there also you have these kind of movement of the influx and outflux of the tides. The tides come in and recede. So that movement is one factor which affects the presence of certain species of plants, and also the salt content, which decides which plant will be present there. Now, this is in this picture, you can see the typical structure that these mangrove trees have. Since there's going to be movement of water in and out, it has to stand in one place. So it has three types of root system. Okay, it has to stay put. It has to stay anchored in that place because the soil is very soft, marshy, and there's nothing much to hold on to the soil. So it creates a kind of a mat of roots, which is called as the base. It creates a mat, and then there's these extra roots which come up from the stem, which is called the stilt root, and then there are breathing roots which come out of the soil to breathe the fresh air so that it can survive in that condition, because then that it has some mechanism by which it eliminates the salt which is present in the water, and it is able to survive. So it has specific adaptation. Now, if these trees were not there in these wetlands, the wetlands are, these are the specific wetlands which are bordering the continent. Okay, now these wetlands are actually holding the land in one piece. Okay, the soil is prevented from getting eroded or dissolved into the water because of this mat of roots which are present there. With the help of it, the water gets filtered, the soil is retained. Okay, so the land doesn't get dissolved into the, if you're going to cut these trees, you're going to destroy the wetland there, the mangrove forest which is existing there won't be anything to hold back the soil, and the soil will simply dissolve into this, and then ultimately we'll see there is very little land that is left. The ocean might progress inland. Okay, just imagine a wild type of imagination if you have to do that. So you have this specific role of the trees that are present in the wetlands freshwater wetlands and the saltwater wetlands. So here there are some examples that are mentioned about the ones which are present in India. Freshwater lakes and reservoirs from Gujarat eastwards and through Rajasthan. That is Kyaldev National Park. That is Bharatpur. Bharatpur National Park. Earlier it was called as Bharatpur, and then Madhya Pradesh. Then you have these. Bharatpur specifically is a rain-fed wetland. Okay, here during rains the water gets filled up, and then throughout the rainy season you have various types of birds and plants which come up, and it's a real sight. I mean, so it's a freshwater marsh, whereas you have this thing, the delta wetlands and lagoons of Indian coast, that is Chilka Lake. Chilka Lake is lagoons which are present where there is fresh water and the salt water that gets mixed. Then you have freshwater marshes in Gangetic Plain, then flood plains in Brahmaputra, marshes and swamps in the hills of Northeast India. Okay, that's exactly what I was trying to tell about this insectivorous. I was telling you about the insectivorous plants. That is Northeast India. So you have the insectivorous plant specifically seen there, and pitcher plant is present only there. Nepenthes is present there. Okay, and very close to our home, we have the coastal region of Mumbai, which is having these mangrove forests in Gorai and Vashi. You come across the mangrove forest. We have the salt marsh wetland in Mumbai also. This is a classification by Holdridge, life zone classification. So depending on the potential evaporation, the amount of temperature which rises, which drops, that is from tropical to the pole, the temperature drops. So you have different types of climatic condition which is modified, and then the annual precipitation, that is the rainfall which is available. The rainfall is more heavier towards the equator, and it is in a different form near the poles. It is frozen. Okay, up to 23 degrees latitude, you have the tropical zone, and from 23 degrees to 60 degrees north and south, it is the temperate zone. There, the temperature is so low that the water gets frozen, and you have the precipitation in the form of ice or snow. Okay, now, and still higher, there is in near the North Pole and the South Pole, it's going to be total ice, which is up almost 4 to 5 feet below the ground, and on the top also you have ice formation. So that is not very inhabitable for the plants. So you have very less vegetation here, and it is represented only by lichens and moss that are present in the polar region. Whereas just below it, you have frozen condition or frost condition, which is not acceptable by all the plants. So you have the plants that are only able to tolerate. So you have these dry tundras, moist tundras, wet tundras, and so on. Rain, depending on the amount of precipitation, it is able to liquid water that is able to assimilate, and so on. You have the different types of forest, and so the habitat changes. Now, this is just I thought I should share this thing with you. Now, what I want to mention here is, along with these natural ecosystems, you also have the man-engineered ecosystems. What is man-engineered? Because man has been utilizing the natural resources present in the different ecosystems for his own benefit. That is to survive, for his own survival. He has been growing crops. Agriculture developed over the years. Earlier, it was shifting cultivation. That is, he used to cultivate crops for a certain period, and then once it started giving less yield, he used to shift to another patch of forest where he cleared the forest, and then had his agriculture crops grown. Okay, so that's how he used to move from one place to other. Earlier, it was a nomadic type of lifestyle for man, and he used to move. But earlier, the population was not so huge that would change the major ecosystem. Okay, so but over the period, the population has gone high, and the demand and supply, demand of the food crops has also gone high. So and then he has learned to stay in one place for a longer period, and then grow his crops. Now, for when he stays a longer period in one place, the entire soil condition, what you say, the components in the soil changes because of these different crops being grown in that habitat. So that has created this agro ecosystem. Agro ecosystem means nothing but the forest land being used for growing agricultural crops, that is the food crops. Gradually over the long period, the soil has changed and it has started supporting the food crops, and the entire uh, what you say, the food chain, the plants which are grown there, the animals which feed on those plants, and the insects, the pollinators which are present in that area, or everything changes subsequently. So that has created a new ecosystem because of the interference of man. So that's why man engineered ecosystem, and that is agro ecosystem. The agricultural lands are described as a agro ecosystem. Similarly, you have the urban ecosystem where the land, the forests have been cleared to build up these residential areas and industrial areas. The forest has been cleared and such things have come up. And so the entire vegetation has been wiped from that place, and then later on it has been planted artificially, or some portion has been kept intact as a remnant of the natural vegetation which was present there. And then you have the various other plants coming planted there for this thing. So here it is a total different structure. Here in urban ecosystem, in addition to the destruction of the trees, in addition to the destruction of the natural vegetation that was present there, there has been addition of what is the cultivable material, that is concrete and other such building materials which were there, which is going to disturb the soil further. Okay, in that area, it either the entire soil in that area has been disturbed, or it has been modified that it cannot support the original type of vegetation. So the other type of plants were grown there. And depending on the choice of plants that are grown there, you have a different setup totally in that area. So that created another ecosystem, that is the urban ecosystem. So that is the city area, city places, they are described as the urban. Rural is more closer to the natural setup. Urban areas is the city type of setup where there are more of these concrete structures which are erected there. Okay, so you have two new types of ecosystem that has been formed because of the human activities. It has been estimated that in 2025, 80% of the people of developed countries will live in cities, and throughout the world there will be only throughout the world, and 40% will be living in the rural areas. This is a forethought, because most of the places are being converted. Even the rural areas, you see there is a lot of development there, and with the development there's a lot of change in the natural ecosystems also. So you have a natural ecosystem. So here this in this image, as you can see here in this photo, there are some photos which are having absolutely no, wherever there are buildings, there are absolutely no plants there. And this is another area, part of the city itself, where they have planted trees and they have maintained vegetation. So this is where the ecosystem has been modified. Instead of having a thick forest, which was originally the natural forest that was present there, here you have different species of trees that are grown artificially. That is it has been grown in that place, and then to a certain extent the greenery is attempted to be retained in that area. So here we have these green spaces. In obviously, if we have the green plants grown along with it, it's going to have a different impact in this places also. And these green spaces, they look much pleasing and has a very pleasant effect on the mind also, right? So this results in the urban and the peri-urban biodiversity, which is going to be ultimately the only biodiversity that is going to be available for human life. If we are going to continue in the way that we are going ahead with the development and utilizing all the natural forests, replacing it with various other requirements, the developmental projects and so on. If you're going to do that, the natural vegetation is going to be totally removed, replaced by the urban biodiversity. Now, why I'm telling specifically like this, because we are planting trees. It's not, we are not allowing the that land to recoup and grow its own plant. There may be seeds and which are present in the soil which can grow and regenerate into the original time. We are planting some different plants there, because you have to be also having a knowledge of if it's exotic species that you're growing there, or if it's a native species that you're growing. It makes a lot of difference, because in a certain place, it's like, you are used to a certain setup, you're used to a certain place, you're living there, you're having nutritional requirement, the climate is also enjoyed in a specific manner. If there is a change in the tree species, if it's a foreign tree that is grown there, exotic species means foreign plant. Okay, if it is grown there, it's going to have a different chemical setup altogether. It's going to have it is going to show a different effect on the soil that it is growing. It may adapt itself, but it will have a different effect in the soil. That is, the soil microorganisms may like the plant, or it may not like, if it doesn't like, it will stop growing there, and or there will be some different other species of microbes that are coming up. So there is going to be inclusion of new species at every level, just because of this one addition. Okay, so, and this is going to have change the atmospheric composition also. So and the pollinators are very important for the plant. Okay, so each plant has a specific pollinator. If it's a new species of some other country that is grown here, those natural pollinators which are original pollinators which are present will not have its food, and gradually it will get diminished, or it may change its habit, and it will cease to grow and cease to be present there. So gradually one species after the other gets eliminated from a natural ecosystem. So it is getting modified. It is getting modified, it's getting replaced by. So that's why we say urban biodiversity or peri-urban biodiversity. So that this is what creates. But then green spaces are important. You need green spaces to survive. That's for man to survive, he needs a green space, because the plants are the major source of oxygen. Okay, so to have that oxygen and also to have a good impact on his psychology, you need to have the green plants around you. Okay, so that is the major reason why we are talking about green spaces. It's not only that, it also regulates the temperature in the entire place, in the habitat. It regulates the temperature. And so we are having, along with the concrete buildings, you are having the inclusion of these plants in the various manner. So green space provides a wide range of ecosystem. That's what we call as ecosystem services. Okay, now ecosystem services not only providing oxygen and the other natural resources which are required for survival, it also it is it improves the health of the city dwellers, especially city dwellers, because in the city we have this concrete and all, which is not going to contribute towards the natural. It's not going to contribute towards oxygen also. Okay, so for city dwellers, it's a very important thing that we should have the green space around. Now, these green space are of three types: natural, semi-natural, and artificial habitats. Okay, you can categorize them into three categories. Natural green space is a remnant of the original vegetation. I'm sorry, the spelling mistake here. The original vegetation, that is what was already present there. The entire thing has been not removed. A patch has been retained, and then you're developing, you're planting more so that you retain that greenery around. Just like we have the Sanjay Gandhi National Park here in Mumbai. That is the natural green space. It's part of the Western Ghats. Okay, it's part of the moist deciduous forest that we have here, and there are lots of tree plantation drive. There's addition of plants, trees that are being planted there, and so we have that as a natural green space. Now, along with it, the semi-natural are the private green spaces. That is, you may have along in your the backyards of your private houses or the private workplaces, communal grounds, apartment buildings, corporate campuses, wherever you're growing plants, these are all private green spaces. So you're trying to retain green space around your building. So it's going to also have a good impact on the structures that are there, the buildings that are there. It's going to also have a good effect on them. So, and since it is, there may be some original plants there, but it's also having some added plants, okay, which are specifically grown in that. So we call it as semi-natural. Okay, artificial green spaces. Artificial green spaces, it includes the parks, reserves, sporting fields, riparian, that is the riverine areas like streams, riverbanks, greenways, wherever trails are formed, all these places where these are retained and or constructed artificially. You're creating, like you have the joggers park, where people go to sit there, relax for some time, or jog or cycle. All these places are filled up with vegetation, okay, and there is a specific path where you have to move around. Okay, so these are all artificially built. It's not the original part. Most of the time there are exotic species and ornamental. Sorry, somebody said something. Okay, so you have these three types of urban green space. Okay, so the emphasis has always been to keep it green so that there is this good effect on the health. Now, now recently these green walls and green alleyways, and even in the cemeteries there have been plantation trees planted there so that you maintain the greenery there. Now green walls are nothing but growing vertical gardens, like the plants are planted in a vertical manner, specific plants. You can't obviously grow trees like that, but there are the greenery is maintained even on vertically. Okay, it's not only on the horizontal land or a plane. You can also have the greenery along the vertical portion of the building, or you can have a green wall where these plants are the point is that you should have the plants around so that you can have the temperature regulated and also the oxygen to a certain extent added in the atmosphere for survival. Okay, now this is again telling you the same thing. Due to the climate change, there is a serious threat to the health, and healthcare also contributes significantly to the carbon emissions. Okay, health there. And if you have a green space, this directly mitigates the climate change. Immediately there will be change in the climate. Just you'll experience if you're standing near the concrete building or you're standing under the tree, you'll feel the coolness under the tree, not under the building. Okay, so that itself. So if you're having a number of trees planted along that area along with the concrete structures, it's going to definitely change the climatic condition. It's going to be much cooler and moist, so that it's pleasant to survive there. Okay, and this green space directly benefits the health. Obviously, it's going to benefit the health. So it improves the air quality. It promotes physical activity, because if you're pleasant psychologically and physically, you're going to be more active, and you'll be also doing a lot of more physical activity. It decreases stress. It reduces noise, because trees are known to filter noise. Okay, it filters noise, it filters dust, it prevents the pollution from entering the house. So if you are going to have the trees and the vegetation, plants grown are around the office structure or around the factory, whatever is emitted from the factory is also prevented from going inland, and all the noise and vehicular traffic and the dust that is coming up due to the vehicular traffic, it is not it doesn't go into the house. So if you have the plants, it filters it out, and even the noise is filtered. So it's a very good thing to have the plants grown. It mitigates the pollution, that is it prevents the pollution. Okay, and it benefits social cohesion. So there will be more of health that is improved in such places where there is more of plants growing, where you have these public green spaces, public and private green spaces. So this diagram explains that. Okay, So this is, I think, the same point that is repeated here. Environmental benefits. Urban green space is a part of larger ecosystem. It's not a separate ecosystem. It's just part of the larger ecosystem. Now, if you're having, we are having the cities inside in the same place as the forest was, because it's in the place where forest was originally present. So it's a part of the larger ecosystem. Regulates urban climate. It can reduce the ambient temperature of the city and aid reducing heat island effect caused by the heat absorbing surfaces. Concrete is going to absorb heat and also radiate. And there are the other substances which are used for this building materials that are being used in construction. These have the heat produced, which can also be reduced by having green spaces around, plants grown around it. It helps in controlling the pollution, and then also preserves the natural areas within the city. So by having these plants grown, you can have some of these animals, birds, and insects which have been otherwise not seen. They will start coming back again. I mean, because they are having their food species grown in your area. If you're going to have these flowers which are butterfly attracted, butterfly will definitely start coming, and gradually the population of these insects will also increase, and then it will be more closer to the natural, but never the original one. Closer to the natural, sorry, or closer to the original nature, not the original itself. Okay, but we can, it's fair enough. Now we have removed the plants, we are bringing back the plants. So this is going to be an artificial type of creating, regreening the earth, which has been otherwise denuded. Okay, so economics and aesthetics. The presence of green spaces is recognized to reduce energy costs. Cooling is the same thing repeated here. Reduces energy use. If you're having plants, obviously there will be less requirement of utilization of energy otherwise. Okay, and it also improves the aesthetic look, aesthetic value increases. It attracts visitors and investors. And wherever there's greenery and cool surrounding, obviously there's going to be people. So economics and aesthetics also, there is an increase in that. Then social and psychological. These benefits are numerous and satisfy citizens for recreational spaces. Why do we run to the hill stations from here? Hill stations have more peaceful setup. There's not much of noise because of the trees and vegetation around, and it gives you you feel you can relax more there as compared to the city. So if you are going to have the green spaces here in the city, it will definitely have the same kind of effect. It's going to boost your mental and physical health. Okay, so and there's going to be connection between the nature and people, which is very, very important aspect that is to be noted with the effect of the urban green space. So those are the ecosystem services. So it not only supports the ecological integrity of the city, that is, it also maintains the ecological balance of the city. It also improves the public health of the population that is staying here. It filters the air, removes pollution, reduces noise, cools temperature, infiltrates stormwater. If there are the trees that are growing there, it filters the pollutant or the debris that is there, and the water is there is a free flow of water instead of getting choked up and overflowing. Okay, so that is also possible. You can use the plants, the trees as a phytoremediators. You can use them to remediate certain polluting component which is there in the water also. You can use the trees for that. Okay, so it also reduces the risk of heat-related illness in the city dwellers. So green cover, and in a green cover or urban forest, as we can say it, in many places you have these traffic islands, public small portions, the triangular portion where the vehicle has to turn or take a different direction. That space which is there not being utilized for the vehicle as such, that is utilized. If you utilize it for these plants to be grown, it's going to have a good effect in that place, and it also looks good. It feels good to have the plants seen in such places. Otherwise, it's going to be absolutely glaring if it is only tar road that has to be seen. Okay, so and obviously you will create a coolness there in such places. So that's about the urban biodiversity. So to conserve this, the biodiversity conservation, urban biodiversity conservation is also important. It's not only conservation of the forest that now we have already gone so much ahead with the development, having industrial uh, plots, and then you have the settlements, and everyone has to survive. So we are trying to grow more and more plants even around the buildings so that you can live comfortably. And so conserving the species that are present here, growing, that is also very important. Conserving the green spaces, if I have to say, not only the species of plants, you have to retain the green spaces. Now just because you want to build something else, so जो green space है उसको निकाल दो and then have something else, is not going to have a good impact. Okay, so preventing this kind of occurrences, we can try to increase the greenery in the cities, so that the species itself that is being grown there can be biodiversity that has got modified and is existing, that can be conserved. Okay, now this thing has started, this conservation movement has started in mid 90s, sorry 70s, 1970s. That is because of the increasing wasteland, because the land has been degraded and it is not cultivable, so you can't have it for agriculture, you can't use it for growing any plants. So because of this situation, there has been an awareness among the people that you have to utilize such wastelands to reforest or green that area, so that the cities are also made more pleasant to be living in. Okay, so environmentalism among people, this is an awareness that has come among the people. So they are more, become more conscious, and this is the reason this urban biodiversity conservation has taken what you say speed. Okay, so recognition and increasing popularity of urban ecology. Now there are people who have understood what is the urban ecology, how we have to maintain natural ecology, and all we learn in the school and colleges. Okay, actually implementing wherever we are staying is something which we should do, and that is possible. And through these different groups, that is the wildlife, nature, environment organizations and clubs, they have taken it upon them to make people aware of the necessity of the plants that have to be around us, and necessity of the nature to be conserved, wildlife to be conserved, and explaining what is natural ecosystem, what is urban ecosystem, that's a modified ecosystem and everything, so that we are knowing about it, knowing about the ecological effect, impact on the soil, and impact on the atmosphere, and finally impact on ourselves for survival. So that has to be understood. So these groups that are present there, these are responsible for this kind of movement, the conservation movement, to take speed and involving more people, students, and public, which otherwise would have not known about what they could do towards improving the situation. Okay, another thing that we have to understand is many exotic species have been also taken in. Now, okay, in urban areas we can grow them, but if you're going to regreen the forest, which is the natural this thing, natural urban green space, natural green space, you as far as possible try to grow only the native species, so that the structure of that natural part which is remaining, which is the remnant that is there of the natural original vegetation that is there, we should not change the composition. We should try as far as possible to grow the native species. Okay, in around our building where it's already been disturbed, you can have the exotic species. You're getting it from Australia or America, or all these plants can be grown there. That's good enough, and that's how it is being cultivated in parks, gardens, domestic areas. There are various types of exotic species, that is foreign species, like gulmohar, rain tree, all these are exotic species. Okay, now there has been a specific group who has taken it upon them to create forest. Okay, there are places where uh, the agricultural land has been left barren, like it's not being cultivated at all. Such places, if it is a forest land, is being open to people, or people are invited to come and plant trees there. So there are a certain group of people who have who call themselves a microforester. Microforester means they are creating forest. It's not the original forest that they are trying to do it, but near to original. There was one such group that I had interacted with, which is near Bhima Shankar Forest. Bhima Shankar is a evergreen forest there. At the foothills, the entire land was purchased by a person, and that person invited this group to create the forest, micro forest in his land, so that it merges with the original forest. Okay, merges, it's in continuation with the forest. So that is like, he's not only growing, having his house built there, and is not only having his farm or whatever other type of utilization. He also wants a part of his land to have the forest, so that he's contributing towards the nature. So this is also a good thing that we can do to afforest the open land or barren land that is there, and such type of thing is also a good move towards conserving the urban biodiversity. Okay, microforests can be done, afforestation of such land in the inside the urban area, in the urban areas itself can be done. And there are people who also grow specific food trees, food plants, and they call it as a food forest. Food forests, and these type of these also contribute towards a green space, urban green space. Okay, and it's not only helping in improving the environmental condition, it is also feeding people. It's also economically sustainable. It's also improving the economic situation. So you can plant trees depending on the choice of trees that you are taking. Accordingly, you can have the benefits of those trees. There's one more thing which I've added here: corridor conservation. Corridor conservation is like, we have been, I should say, selfish enough to have our residents taken care of, our requirements taken care of. We have forgotten that the animals will have to move from one place to the other, from one part of the forest to the other forest. Forest ke beech mein humne sab kuch kar liya hai. Now this is described as a corridor where the animal has to move. That's why we come across, when we go on highways, we see leopards crossing, the tigers crossing, or the bear crossing, because it's a path, unka rasta hai, and we have built all these things, and they are not able to peacefully go across. And that's why there are a number of such highway deaths of animals that we come to know from the papers. Okay, so this corridor conservation is nothing but to identify the path of these animals and create a walkway or something across these developed areas, so that the animals can peacefully go across in the forest as it would normally do. Okay, so this corridor conservation is something which has come up, and recently there were a list of areas which have been designated as conserved as a corridor conserved. Okay, I'm not having the list right now, but recently, just I think last month or May was it, I don't exactly remember, Maharashtra government, at least here, had declared certain areas which are conserved as corridor. Okay, so there the people who are dependent on forest producers are also benefited, and the animals also have a peaceful place to move from one place to the other. So you're also protecting the wildlife in that manner. Okay, so these are areas where you can improve, you can bring some improvement, you can contribute towards the greening of the spaces. And this is in a near urban, in and around urban areas only, so we can definitely say urban biodiversity conservation. Okay. So this is how we have the current changes in the urban regions. You can have rooftop forests or rooftop vegetation gardens. You can have them along the forest. See, as you can see, this is actually at an angle. This is the vertical portion of the building where it is where the plant has been grown. You can grow it either in small pots, or you can have just certain species of plants which can grow on the wall. And then all the balconies, you can see it is filled up, and it really feels good. Or you have the garden which is populated very nicely and beautifully. Aesthetically, it is aesthetic, as well as it gives a good atmosphere, pleasant place to be relaxing and walking around. And if you have so much of greenery, then it's definitely going to change the urban situation, is going to make it more pleasant to live in. Okay, so that's about the green space. I hope I have tried to cover sufficiently, but I don't know. It's not possible to cover all the points in just 1 hour or 1.5 hours. Okay, now coming to the next part, that is a wetland. Wetlands, as I described, the wetlands need to be protected for retaining the continents in shape, if I have to use such drastic words. Okay, so this had been realized by a few people, and then this Ramsar Convention came into existence, and this is an international treaty for conservation of sustainable utilization of wetlands, recognizing the fundamental ecological functions of wetlands and their economic, cultural, scientific, and recreational value. Okay, so the wetlands, that is these coastal forests, the coastal forests or coastal vegetation is utilized for many things. Okay, it is utilized for recreation. You have the recreation, like you have the speedboats, you have the canoeing, and so many different recreational activities that are conducted there. Then you have also economic. There are some plants which are utilized as food or utilized for medicine, and various other such uses. They are being utilized there. The animals are harvested, the fish is harvested. So you have these economic and which are also part of the cultural activity of the tribes or the people who are staying around in the coastal region. And then scientific research is also conducted. See, so this Ramsar Convention, it makes it possible for all these activities to also be carried out, and also at the same time retain the health of the wetlands. So it is mainly to preserve the wetlands. Okay, so the convention aims at that. It is also, it aims at helping and being beneficial to the plant, so the people and animal who are dependent on the wetland for various things, and plus the environmental factor is also taken care of. Okay, so 0.014% of Earth's water occurs in the soil and freshwater soils and freshwater in the freshwater wetlands. Okay, it's not soil and freshwater; it's soil and in the freshwater wetlands. Okay, so the water that is there, it actually recharges the ecosystem. When there is not much of rainfall, it is these wetlands which supplies water to the existing plants that are present around in the forest, in the natural ecosystem. Okay, so if you have to understand in how does the river and stream come up, it is the water that the rainwater goes down into the soil, and the excess water comes out in the form of rivers and streams. Okay, and if it's a rain-fed region, after the rains, there won't be any water in the stream. But if it is continuously flowing, that means it's the groundwater which is coming up and it is flowing. And if there's going to be sufficient protection for the groundwater to remain in the ground, inside under the ground, then the rivers and these water bodies will be always full of water, and this water is going to recharge the moisture around the habitat, and all the plants will be happily growing, and even the consumers will be happily present there. Okay, so so Earth's water exists in the soils. That's what it means here. Okay, and you have different types of wetlands. That is the bogs and fens are in the temperate region, the colder region, where the soil moisture is it gets frozen, and the organic matter that is there, it doesn't get totally decomposed. Okay, there has to be a certain amount of temperature for the microorganisms to be active. If it's going to freeze, then the microorganisms will not be able to decompose these plant decaying matter. Okay, that dead and decaying matter that is fallen on the ground, it cannot be decomposed by the microorganisms. So such type of soil which is having a half decomposed material and the soil, and it's almost like spongy and described as a box, and it's obviously going to retain water in there. Now obviously moisture will be there, and it's going to be soft and spongy and that kind of a, so this is a specific type of soil which is seen in the temperate region and the alpine regions. Marshes are the type of wetlands which are having the clay content more. Okay, more of clay content, and because of the clay content, the water is unable to seep down. Okay, so the water starts logging. Okay, and it's a sticky kind of mud, so the water is going to remain there, and that's another type of wetland. As you see in the salt marshes, that is a coastal region, that's a mangrove forest, that sticky soil is there, and in same place inside the forest, in some places you see the marshy type of soil. So there also the clay content is more. And there are these flood plains where which is present inside the forest. Then the lakes and ponds. These are the portions where the water gets collected, and there are specific places. It's in one of the slides that's shown. It has a lower dark portion. Up to the lighted portion, you have the plants, and they retain the prevent the soil from being eroded, and you have the plants around it, so the water is also retained. Okay, so all these are different types of wetlands which we can preserve, which we can preserve, and Ramsar Convention, it takes care of all these types. And these are different types of wetlands they have identified to be preserved and conserved. And then similarly, you have the marine estuaries and the open seas. All these come under this convention. These are the different, I'm not reading it out. It's available in the Ministry of Environment website also. I had taken it from there only. So there are 49 Ramsar sites. They have identified these as Ramsar sites, and they are pointedly monitored, and they are seen to it that they are kept in good health and good condition, so that the wetlands are retained, and subsequently we have also the biodiversity around it retained. So you have these different types of see in Maharashtra. Maharashtra, it's the Lonar Lake and the Nandur Madmeshwar. There you have these wetland there, which is retained and which is one of the Ramsar sites. And like that, you have in different places in our country, which has been identified as a Ramsar site. Now, why should we conserve the wetlands? Now, we have been always, I've been telling it right from the beginning. Now, here by point wise, we'll discuss it again. Popularly known as nature's kidneys. What does the kidney do in us, in our body? It purifies whatever we consume, and then it separates out the excretory matter and lets out their good part to be absorbed by the body, so that we are in a healthy condition. Okay, the same way this wetland also does in the ecosystem. Okay, the wetland or the plants that are present around it, in those plants, it does this work. So, and it is also a vital part of the hydrological cycle. Hydrological cycle is the water cycle. Obviously, you have studied it in your school, and 11th and 12th, you must have definitely learned about the biogeochemical cycles. The hydrological cycle is retained by the wetlands. Okay, wetlands not only supports the larger biological diversity, but also provides a wide range of ecosystem services such as soil erosion, flood mitigation. It prevents the flood. Suppose we are totally denuding the coastal forest. What will happen? Tsunami, tsunami pe tsunami aayega andar. There won't be any plant to cut the force of water which will come from the ocean. Okay, so these kind of flood possibilities are mitigated by the, or are prevented by the wetland vegetations. Okay, so then you have water purification, water assimilation. Assimilation, that is, the water is made available to the plants that are present around it. Okay, so that the plants can, you don't have to water the plant all the time. It is already utilizing the water that is present in the groundwater, ground level. So groundwater recharge is done by this wetlands. Then wetlands plays a major role as a source of fresh water. Okay. Now it has been estimated, I think just another 5 years or 6 years, maybe we'll lose all the fresh water that we are getting naturally. Metro water bhi hai na, shayad nahi milega. We'll have to depend totally on the processed water. Just imagine, if you are, do you want to have that kind of a condition made to us, so that do we have to buy water and always drink like that. And it's a difficult situation. The simple way is to grow more plants around us, preserve the natural ecosystems, wetlands, preserve it, preserve the forest. Automatically, there'll be these natural resource, the water as a natural resource retained, and then we can have the lakes and the lakes filled up so that we can get the natural water instead of the bottled water, instead of the processed water. Okay, so they are the major source of fresh water and encompasses different assemblages of habitats. That means it is supporting the different types of habitats which are present around that ecosystem. They are home for various creatures, including birds, even the temporary. Now, there is a sightseeing thing arranged. I learned about it just a few months, just last month, was it April or May? Flamingos had arrived. Okay, to watch the flamingos, एक boat arrange किया था. I mean the sightseeing boat which takes you much closer to the breeding site, and then you see the flamingos and you come back. Okay, ऐसा था. It was just before the rains. They stopped it somewhere early part of May or something. They stopped it there. Till that time, there was this thing going on. Now, these migratory birds, flamingos are migratory birds. There are some types of cranes also which visit our country. So you have these, fresh water is the wetlands are the home for these kind of temporary migratory birds also. Especially in Bharatpur, you have various types of such migratory birds which visits that ecosystem. Okay, so you have, and then obviously maintaining the ecological balance. That's the main function of the wetland. Okay, and this is a fragile ecosystem. If you're going to disturb it, the main thing that is important for the life is destroyed, is damaged. That is the water. The water, if it is depleted, then most of the organisms, all the organisms will not be able to survive. Whether it is plants, whether it is animals, whether it is man is also an animal, or the microbes, even they will not survive. Okay, so it's going to disturb the entire thing. It's a very fragile ecosystem, so it's very important that we have to retain the wetlands. Okay, yeah, and so that we can have our own thing continued, that is as it's said, is getting exploited by humans, ever growing greed, and hence it is in grave danger of extinction. If you're going to utilize it only for your needs and not bother about the environmental condition, ultimately wo bhi nahi rahega and you are also going to die. Okay, so that's how it is. So what is the mission of Ramsar Convention? It was adopted in 1999 and refined in 2002. The mission is clearly, it says the conservation and wise use of wetlands through local, regional, and national actions and international cooperations as a contribution towards achieving sustainable development throughout the world. So you should know the ecology, you should understand the ecology of the, you should understand the wetland. कि उसमें से क्या मिलता है, what are we getting it, what is existing there, and how we can maximum use it without disturbing the natural setup. So that is what is the sustainable action. Okay, so that we need to understand. That's the main mission of Ramsar Convention. And this term wise use is actually the crux of the entire thing. You know, you have to maintain the wetland only when you understand the ecological character. Otherwise, it's not possible. Just by planting trees is not going to do everything. There is one group which also does this planting. You have these, they have nursery of the mangrove trees somewhere along the coastal areas of Maharashtra. The college students and the teachers, they have taken it upon themselves to grow the saplings or collect the seeds, and they go and plant it on site. Okay, they plant it on site, and this even every one of us can do. Each one of us can do if you take it upon yourself to protect and preserve the wetlands. Okay, so it's possible to do. There is also one lady which jiska video ekdam viral hua tha. She takes people around in the boat. She takes around along the mangrove forest, explaining what it is and uska use kya hai. That means it's almost like an eco tour. ecotour where she's telling, that means she has understood the importance of that forest, of the plants that are growing there and what all animals are found there. She's been explaining, she's making the public, the sightseeing public who are there, making them available. So uska earning bhi hota hai. She also is contributing towards spreading the awareness of the forest and coastal forests and so on. So these are some steps where we can, which we can adopt to protect any type of ecosystem for that matter. I think it's the same thing that is repeated here. So here it just says that areas of marsh, fen, that is bog and fen, peatland or water, whether natural or artificial. That's what here Ramsar Convention, whether it's not concentrating only on natural ecosystem or natural wetlands. It's also natural or artificial, permanent or temporary, with water that is static or flowing, fresh, brackish, that is salt water, or without salt, including areas of marine water, the depth of which is low tide, depth of which at low tide does not exceed 6 meters. So these are the conditions which are specified in the convention. Okay, that means in short, all these different types of wetlands have to be protected to have a sustainable living. Okay, now in this convention, there are these till date, 170 countries have joined. See, our country is also this contracting parties, which are doing this activity, which are part of this convention. And they are encouraged, these countries are participating to maintain the ecological characters of all wetlands. This is part of the Ramsar Convention, which specifies that you have to do all these activities to protect and preserve the wetlands. And once they have done that, they are supposed to be reporting to the higher authorities of what was their progress. After every three years, they have to report in what condition the wetland is in. And obviously, all the statistics of the animals, birds, plants, insects, and everything, they have to give a report of. And there's wisely using and conserving all the wetlands in their respective countries, designating and conserving at least one Ramsar site that is wetland of international importance. This is like, kind of an incentive. There might be something. I have not put everything here because it was a huge paper, which I could not put everything. I have just put these 3 points here, and they have to report every 3 years. They have to be reporting of their progress. Okay, and transboundary wetlands come. Recently, these are the 2 wildlife sanctuary. That is the 2 Ramsar site which has been included in 2 new Ramsar site which has been included in India. There is the Kijadia Wildlife Sanctuary. This is a number that is given for that particular ecosystem. It's a freshwater wetland which is in Gulf of Kutch in Gujarat state. Okay, and they have given a synopsis of what is present there, why it has to be protected and so on. So it has been included as one of the new Ramsar site. Then another Bakhira Wildlife Sanctuary. This is in Kabir district, Uttar Pradesh mein hai. This is also another new Ramsar site that has been added to the already existing 49 Ramsar sites. Okay, this is important for the bird life, and it supports over 80 species of birds in that ecosystem. So, and wintering grounds for over 25 species of which migrate to Central Asia. So these are the specific things which doesn't normally occur at that site. If that place is not conserved, why we have to say that wetlands have to be conserved? Because this is the only place these birds visit. दूर दूर से आके यहाँ पे आते हैं. They spend, they are escaping the severe winter. They're coming to this wetland. After that winter season changes, they go back to that place. It's a like visitors, like how we run to the hill station during summer. It's that kind of a thing. Okay, so now, and it's only this one site or a specific few sites which are visited. So you have to protect that site so that you can have the bird population. Otherwise, these birds will go extinct. They don't have many different places to visit. They don't have a choice. They have very specific habitats that they breed in or they feed in. Okay, so that's the reason you give all these kind of explanations why you have to do it, what are the different types. So all these kind of study, the entire biodiversity study is done of the area, and then it is presented to the authorities, and then finally a decision is taken whether it has to be treated as an eco-sensitive zone or whether it has to be treated as a Ramsar site, and all these decisions are taken subsequently. Recently, environment minister, I think it's yeah, cover ho raha hai. I can't see the name. I can't see the name. Anyway, he has decided to this 26 wetlands. 26 wetlands are proposed to be designated as Ramsar sites. Okay, 13 from Tamil Nadu. He has suggested certain wetlands and proposed to be requested to be proposed to be designated as Ramsar sites so that they are protected. Okay, 13 from Tamil Nadu, 4 from Odisha, 3 from Madhya Pradesh, 2 from Jammu Kashmir, 1 each from Maharashtra, Mizoram, Karnataka, and Goa. So like that, there are different sites which are being identified now, and they are studied, and they are also studied to be protected, means specifically protected. And so there are these so many different sites. See here, they have named it also, the bird sanctuaries, Chitrangudi, Kuntankulam, Vadalur, and Vaduvar. I mean, all these are different places, wetlands which are present in Tamil Nadu. Then you have these different other names. In Maharashtra, you have the Nanda Lake in Goa, sorry, Thane Creek in Maharashtra, Nanda Lake in Goa, Pala Wetland in Mizoram, and Ranganatittu Bird Sanctuary in Karnataka. Now, all these are places which are already there. We are Ranganatittu, even I have visited and I enjoyed it. You actually go by a boat to see these birds. No, it's a wetland. It's a freshwater wetland. Same like Bharatpur, you have Ranganatittu in Karnataka. Okay, and these are all ready to be treated as Ramsar sites. So this is what is happening in our country. Okay, so these different sites may be put in. Ramsar site means it's getting a kind of a recognition to be protected. So that is what is the motive. The objective of Ramsar site is to protect the wetland, and this is how it is going to be. And all has certain procedures to be followed. So this is chartered to be getting recognition as a Ramsar site. Okay, there was one thing also which Ishwari had pointed out, how to restore or protect a wetland. Now, these are 4 basic steps which I thought could be told here. Otherwise, there are various steps that are shown in when I was surfing through the net to find out what are the ways in which the restoration is done. And there are these government legislation also involved and all. I have not put on all that. Just a simple 4 basic step which I put here is treatment of invasive species. As far as possible, we have to first know about what is the resident species, native species which are present in the wetland, and try to increase the population of those resident species, the native species. And invasive species can create conditions which are harmful for the resident species, and it will totally change the structure of the ecosystem. So that should not be encouraged. You have to first see if there is any lantana growing, or the what do you say, this one, carvi, what is it, Ipomia carvi, a Besharam plant bolte hain usko. I don't know if you all are familiar with the botanical names, but these type of plants will have to be uprooted. You have to identify the invasive species, remove them, and then replace them with the native species, so that the native birds and the ones which are originally were present earlier, they come back to the ecosystem, come back to this place. And that is what should be the first thing: treatment of invasive species, placement of clean sand. You have to treat the soil also. The soil content has to be replenished. So you should understand what is the composition of the soil, and then you have to prepare the soil wherever it is required to do that. Then seeding and planting. You can either plant the seed, sow the seed there specifically in sites, or you have the seeds grown into a sapling in the nursery and bring the sapling and plant it here. Either ways it can be done. And then maintaining and monitoring is the absolute important step. You have to be vigilant that it is not being eaten away or grazed away, and also monitor that it grows into a full-fledged tree once it has established itself, and once it has established roots, and when it has started growing it to a certain height, then you don't have to monitor it so much as otherwise you have to do. Okay, till it establishes, till it is completely occupying that space, and till the soil is all held back, that's when you have to monitor a lot. So that now here I've given the details the same which I've said it in a brief manner. I think I've talked for more than an hour. I'm not going into the details here, because in this it tells you how you can prepare the soil, how you have to remove the invasive species. In the next point, it is the placement, how these soil is improved or prepare the ground. It's just like making your garden. To prepare a garden or even a pot, you are mixing manure and the red soil and all in a certain proportion, and you're making the ground ready for the plant to grow. In the same way, for the wetlands also, this preparation needs to be done, so that it's having a good nutrient solution or nutrient composition in the soil for the specific plants to be growing there. Seeding and planting, and then maintenance and monitoring. So this is, yeah. So that's how we need to take care of. We have to be restoring. These are the steps, basic steps which you have to follow to restore the wetlands. Okay. Now this is one thing about the QGS, that is GIS. This is a geographical information system. Q, I am not, sorry, I'm not aware of what that Q stands for. You can find out, I don't know if it is. This is one paper which I accessed in the net. Now, to tell about everything about QGIS, I am not competent, because I am not a computer studies person. I am a biologist, a botanist by profession and studies also. So I won't be able to explain, but I have just put the different benefits here. It's a kind of a system where you map the vegetation. Okay, this is done in various places where you can do the vegetational mapping. You can geotag the plant. You can identify the position. It's like a satellite imagery. There's a signal sent to the satellite, and then you get a record of the latitude and longitude of the place in which the plant is standing. In the same way, this system can be used for identifying the green spaces, or where the green spaces are required. So you can find out places where you can have these green space created, or already existing green spaces also can be mapped. So the mapping can be done with the help of this equipment. Okay, it's a kind of a gadget which can be used for this. So here, as you can see, the users to inspect and edit spatial information, that is over a certain distance, you can have all these kind of information available to you by through the satellite imagery. Then you can create and export maps, and it is a free open software where I think it is available that way. So that's why I said I'm not a competent person to explain this part. Here you can use it for here. It's used as a map viewing app. It also helps to analyze things like polygons, centroids, and matrix and all. It specializes in mapping, planning your needs, and you can publish them online. Okay, Open Street Maps. It captures attention of all startups and so on. The GIS system. So in the open space and the green space, it's like, a support system which you're using, so that it makes it easier for you to identify place where you can have the green space created, in the urban areas or otherwise. Even vegetation mapping is done. I think इससे ज़्यादा मैं बोलूँगी तो it will be too much, too much of a confusion, I should say. So I better stop at that. You can definitely find out more information of this, and there'll be definitely some person who will be able to give more correct information on QGIS. So that's it for today, which I had in my platter for you. I hope it's understood. Yeah, thank you so much. Hello. Hello, can you hear me? I hope I had not gone off throughout my lecture.
Uh, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, ma'am, for wonderful informative session.
Yeah.
So now we are moving forward to question answer session. If anyone have questions, please put them in chat box. Ma'am, so now we have 3 questions in chat box. First question is, how we can convince people to plant trees who are least bothered about nature and biodiversity?
It cannot be least bothered. You only have to say ki what is the importance of a tree. पहले उसको अच्छे से you have to explain it to them. If what would be the benefit that they would get, and what it feels like when you plant. You know, like how we when I say about tree plantation and all, we say ki you select a plant of your choice, plant it on your birthday, and give it some name. Then that's going to be your baby. I mean, there has to be something connected which motivates them to plant it. It cannot be ki anyone is against planting. I have never come across anyone who's against. If that was the question, it's least bothered means, yeah, there are many people who nahi karna hai unko. So you can always motivate them by telling ki this is going to be the benefit or certain incentive connect kiya hai to. Otherwise, it's very, very difficult to convince people who don't want to work. Yeah, I hope I answered the question. Hello?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Next question is, what could be the reason of lake turning into green when the nutrients like nitrates and phosphates are in low concentration?
Lake turning into green. But just repeat that. You said lake turning into green.
Lake.
Okay, lake doesn't turn into green. It's the what's it, the algae that is growing on the surface. Okay, it's the water is going to be the same color, but it's the microscopic plants, that is the algae which grows there, and that's because there is more of nitrate content in the water. Okay, there are these blue green algae and certain species of green algae which utilize more of nitrates. Okay, once there is a lot of food available, it's going to multiply and completely cover the surface. Okay, that's how the lake becomes green or blue. But this is not a very healthy condition. We call it as eutrophication, which is a resultant of the increased organic content in the soil. If you're going to dump sewage or dump organic matter into the waters, that is going to change the composition of water totally, even the soil. And if organic content is added in larger quantity, that is going to encourage only certain species to grow very well. And जो originally present है वो निकल ही जाएगा उधर से, it won't grow. So that's how these algae occupies, and the lake looks as if it is filled up and green in color. If you go closer and move the waters, you will see that it's covering the surface and it's not the entire water that is changed. Is that it? And that's how, see, the nitrates and phosphates are increasing because of the dumping of the organic content, organic matter in the water, that is throwing sewage or that kind of addition.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next question is from Angel Abraham. He is asking that the wetlands are producing ammonia. This will contribute to the climate change. How this will be compensated?
I actually didn't understand the question. See, that way every ecosystem has this nitrogen cycle going on. Okay, so the ammonia and the nitrogen content is being mineralized and then cycled. But compensation ka, how this is going to be compensated? It's not losing anything. Compensate karne ki kya zarurat hai? Where is it getting lost? It's not getting lost. The wetlands are producing ammonia, matlab there will be some more which is going to be added onto the soil by way of either excretion of some animal or something, that ammonia gets added to the soil, and again it is getting processed and sent back to the atmosphere. It's a cycle that goes on. There's nothing lost from the ecosystem if it's a natural ecosystem, unless there is anything abnormal going on. There's either going to be accumulation of too much of nitrates or ammonia in the soil, and less of this microbes which are not present there to process it and send it back. Okay, so the microbial population in the soil has to be healthier, and the animals, obviously, if everything is in a healthy condition, there's nothing lost. It's only cycled through and through. Okay, in different forms. Ammonia is added to the soil, it's processed and sent back as free nitrogen into the atmosphere, and then into the biotic organism, it is processed in the form of proteins. And then again, when you excrete, it comes back in the form of ammonia. So it's like that. Does it answer, Abraham? Angel, does it answer your question?
वो सब unmute है, mute है.
Okay, no problem. I hope it is convincing. You can always read about it because it's a nitrogen cycle. Here there is nothing lost. Nothing is lost in the natural ecosystem. Nothing is lost. It's added. It's only cycled, cycled and recycled. That's all that.
Yes, ma'am. We have some more questions. Due to increase in urbanization, the wetlands are concertized with
Concretized. Concretized. Yeah.
Sorry, which restricts the tortoise spawning. So, what is your opinion regarding proper planning of urban ecology?
I am not a competent person for tortoise this thing spawning and all. So as far as I have understood, it's the sandy place where the tortoise lay their eggs and all that. No? See, I really don't. I'm not knowing about the tortoise, so I don't think I'll be able to explain this. But increase in urbanization is going to obviously affect the population of tortoise. Okay, so because they have a specific way of breeding also, they bury their eggs. If I have seen these in the wildlife films, they bury the eggs, and then there is a certain type of action that they do. If that sand is not going to be there, and this mainly in the beach only, so it's only in the sandy beach that they do that. If that is going to be concretized, it's not giving them a habitat to even lay the eggs, so it's going to affect the population. And proper urban ecology, to you should prevent concretizing such places where the tortoise visit. You should know if that is such a place where the tortoise is seen there quite often. These kind of concretization has to be prevented or avoided. Yeah. Urbanization बोला तो सब wetlands को concrete नहीं करना चाहिए. That is where we are trying to protect the wetlands, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Next question is from Suryamal Sukumaram. Does the Miyawaki method of urban afforestation is really helping the biodiversity conservation?
Biodiversity conservation, see, it's like, in a particular, now you know how much time the forest takes to be established. It takes centuries. Okay, it has different layers in the forest. Like, you have the ground vegetation, you have the herb layer, then the shrub layer, then the trees of different heights. Okay, those some to come into existence, it takes a long time. Okay, and there is this competitive and associative behavior among the plants, which finally stabilizes, and then a forest is formed. So we should not understand the forest as just a group of trees. Okay, and if Miyawaki is understood like that, I don't think Miyawaki goes in that line. They also are decided on the lines of ecological balance only. So that has to be understood properly. Afforestation is definitely going to, urban afforestation is being done in those lines. Many places there is Miyawaki forest and afforestation is being done. But it's not just planting the trees in a crowded manner. or planting plants in a crowded manner. हर एक को है ना अपना space देना चाहिए. You have to give them the space so that it can grow and sustain there. It should stay there. Grow करने की वह जगह नहीं है करके ना, if it is going to have this kind of crowded situation, then they might either cease to grow, or they may land up having some diseases which will affect the other plants. Some insects which are infesting on the leaves, and it will become weaker if it's in a crowded situation. So ये सब समझ के Miyawaki करना चाहिए. Like, you know, suppose you're having two trees. I had seen in one place, they had grown this badam tree and peepal tree so close to each other. Both are big trees. Okay, they are big trees and they will grow into a bigger size. The trunk is going to go into a bigger size, and also they spread out the branches. That is also there. उसको लिए जगह ही नहीं था. It's not like, you know, अभी मैंने plant कर दिया, मेरा काम हो गया, मैं चली. ऐसा नहीं जा सकते हम. You have to see to it that it grows into a forest. Now, that is what is the ultimate objective. So Miyawaki forest means it has to grow into a forest. Miyawaki, because it's been said by, suggested by some Japanese, it's called as Miyawaki. Otherwise, the purpose of making a forest is that you have to regreen and afforest that area. So that means the plants will have to stay for a longer time. So you have to give them sufficient space. Or दो tree के बीच में क्या करोगे? You have to plant some shrubs which won't grow so tall and create hindrance for the trees and so on. You have to select the plant species in such a manner that you have a forest established, not just crowding it. Nazik nazik kar diya, sabko khada kar diya, aisa nahi. So it's going to have a bad effect. Yeah.
So this is Ishwar here, ma'am. We'll continue with the question and answer session. Ma'am, there is one more question from Usha Nandini. She's asking, is only urbanization the reason for wetland destruction, or any other issues that are taking place behind the scenes?
Man is the only destructor, no? Man is having this selfish motive. I don't think any other species in the biosphere is having any ulterior motives to create and disturb an ecosystem. I am also responsible for that, I should say. I am the human race. we are having a brain to think, ye bhi lo, wo bhi lo, ye bhi lo, sab hamare liye. And that's how. So it's the man's activity, human activity, that is causing the problem. Otherwise, naturally, there won't be, as I said, the forest or the vegetation, when it grows, na, ek dusre ke saath competitive and associative action ke saath they grow along with that kind of competition and association. So it's already harmonizing. So there cannot be any other natural reason which is disturbing the ecosystem. Okay, unless there is untoward, unless the ecology, see, if I have to give one, the question was if there are any other reason for destruction of wetlands.
Yes,
okay. Yeah, so if you're growing a certain species of plants alone, okay, and if there are some exotic species which are growing there, which is having a different behavior altogether, okay, now that is going to change the soil, create a hindrance for the nutrient absorption, or such kind of thing can happen, which is affecting the originally growing plant species in that place, or originally present animal species which are there. If they get affected, suppose you have this food chain as producer, consumer, and the decomposer. Okay, if producer, a certain species of plant has been continuously grown there without allowing the other plants to grow, now there can be overcrowding of that particular species, which can disturb the ecological balance in that place, and that can create a problem. Okay, which naturally may not occur. Naturally, usko chhod doge na, if that wetland is left on its own, it is going to have these kind of balance automatically done. It's only the human interference which is causing this kind of disturbances. Okay, so as far as possible, if you are planting or afforesting the coastal or the wetlands, you have to see to that it has to be a mixed kind of a cropping that is done there, so that all types of plant species and animal species are able to survive there, which is supposed to be present in that particular specific wetlands. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. So we'll go to the next question by Amar Kumar. He's asking, is there any example or incident where an exotic species have turned out to be useful and has modified an ecosystem in a wonderful way and made it to serve the nature in a better way?
I have to find it out myself. I'm sorry. I cannot, I may not be able to name the species as such. Exotic species being useful. No, I'll have to find out. I'm so sorry.
No problem, ma'am. We'll get to the next question.
Yeah.
Next question is by Aparna Sharma. She's asking, what is the major difference between swamp and wetlands? How can we identify it practically?
Okay. Wetlands is a general term. It's a general term. And swamp are those which are having clay content. Marsh and swamp. The soil composition has that sticky soil. Okay. Where when you stand, you you tend to sink. Okay. तो swamp में and जिसे कीचड़ बोलते हैं ना, कीचड़ is the marsh. Okay, that sticky soil. Okay, and
Yes,
wetland is a general term. Swamp is also wetland, and it has to be either a marshy wetland or it's decided on the type of soil. And water collection bola to wetland hua. Okay, Aparna?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So we'll go with the last question, ma'am, because we are short of time right now. So the last question is by Sana Habi, and she's asking, I'm sorry, as you have mentioned about the eutrophication, algal growth is high. Phytoplankton are photosynthetic organisms and primary producer. So dissolved oxygen should be high in the eutrophicated condition.
Yeah,
but it was
if it is allowed to grow. Okay, that is, if the phytoplanktons are allowed to grow, then there will be these kind of photosynthetic and addition of nutrients and so on. Because when there is organic content more, the competition is so high that these original phytoplanktons get subdued. They get killed. They are not allowed to be present only there. These other species, the other algal species, they overpower these original phytoplankton and they occupy that place. Okay, so what happens is, why the ecosystem gets eutrophicated is because they cover the surface and under light jata hi nahi hai. There is very little light that goes. So all those organisms which are present below the water level, they are not getting light, they are not getting oxygen, and obviously they'll tend to die, and they add to the organic content. Okay, जो मरेगा वो organic content बन जाता है. So that goes on increasing, and these species which are surviving on the surface layers, they go on adding, they go on multiplying. So ऊपर thick layer बन जाता है. So that has to be filtered out. They have to remove physically. Then only the water will be cleared, and then the waters will get the oxygen and the light and all the necessary things. Then the phytoplanktons will start existing in that piece. Okay, so the phytoplankton gets replaced. That's निकल जाता है. It ceases to grow.
Okay, ma'am. Yeah. So one more last question. Sorry, ma'am. Shiv Prasad asking. So he's asking, can you share a few things how wetlands and water bodies can help in refueling the water? For example, increased number of bore wells has resulted in decreased availability of groundwater in urban situations. Will management of wetland help this?
Managing wetland by growing trees, it retains water in the groundwater level. Okay, when it retains groundwater, see, ultimately it is a precipitation. Water cycle hota rehta hai na? So water cycle, it will retain the water only if it is present in the groundwater. If there is going to be number of bore wells dug up in all the places, it's going to suck out these water. The groundwater is getting sucked out. Okay, it gets removed from one place, but there has to be something which will retain or replenish that water source under the ground, in the groundwater level. So that can be done only by planting the trees around it, or retaining the vegetation around that place, and then allowing the natural seeping of water and filling up the groundwater. Then only wherever the bore well is created, that there will be continuous supply of water. Does it answer the question?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So
these are all things now which have to be understood basically. Aata kidhar se aur jata kidhar hai. That has to be understood properly. Then these things becomes clear. It's not like there were so many bore wells in Chennai that the salt water started coming into getting mixed with the fresh water that was going up the bore well. It happened like that because there were too many bore wells. So there is a certain number of bore wells that also can be dug up. You can't have too many in the same place. So that has to be decided. So it's not only going to drain, it's also going to suck in the salt water into the wells that you're digging. Yeah.
Okay, so there's an announcement. Participants are requested not to leave the meeting as we have an announcement of interest for everybody. Also, to get the certificates, everyone should fill the feedback form, which will be provided after the end of the session. Okay, so after such a great question answer session, I hand over the program to Renu for the next session.
Okay, hello all. Let me share the screen. Is it visible to you?
No, Renu. Hello, Samiksha. Will you be able to present the PPT?
Yes, I will be presenting. Wait a minute.
Okay, wait a minute. Now, is it visible?
No, dear.
I think there's some network issue. You need to reshare it.
Samiksha, are you going to present? Samiksha, are you there?
Is the screen visible?
Yes.
Okay, hello everyone, I'm Reem. I hope you people enjoyed the session and learned more about the urban green spaces and wetland, and all your queries are resolved with this topic. Might be you people are thinking why I'm here. So I'm here to announce a great opportunity for you that we are coming up with 3 days workshop on QGIS with the hands-on training. Through this workshop, you'll get basic to advanced level learning of QGIS. QGIS basically stands for Quantum Geographic Information System. So our speaker for this workshop will be Mr. Vikas G. Gadmore. He is GIS and remote sensing expert. So in those 3 days, you will get to know more about the QGIS. You will at the first day you will know the basics of GIS and remote sensing and its application. You will know how to use a Google Earth Pro, how to georeference various type of projections, and at the day 2 you will know how to create shape files, how to access open source satellite images for any part of the world, and how to download the DM dataset. And at the last day you learn modeling with the QGIS tool and know how to prepare of elevation contour and slope map using DEM data. So basically it's a hands-on exercise for all the 3 days, and there will be question and answer session for you all. Then anybody Anybody can join this. It is for the researchers, for the graduates, for the students. No prior knowledge of QGIS needed for this software, as it can be downloaded. It is a free software and open source software which can be easily downloaded to Mac, Windows, Linux, Android system, anywhere. Then the benefits which you are going to be uh, that first is a best hands-on training you will experience. You will have a special interactive question answer session, and you'll learn modeling. Nowadays there's a need of skilled people is increased, so if you want to be skilled, so I think you have to join this workshop. If you people are interested, then you can register here. Please check link in chat box for the QGIS workshop. And we also have an amazing offer for you. You can get discount by taking a quiz about the environmental knowledge. The first prize winner will get 70% discount. The second winner will get 50%. And the third winner will get 30% discount. And every participant of this event will get 20% discount. The quiz is tomorrow. So we'll send the link of quiz in WhatsApp group. So if anybody didn't join the WhatsApp group, then please go and join that WhatsApp group. And you can register for quiz there only, and the timings for the quiz are 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. and the result will be declared personally to the winners by Monday. Now I'm handling this to Ishwari for vote of thanks. Thank you.
Okay, so here we come to the end of the event. So before we end the event, firstly, I would like to thank Dr. Sashireka ma'am for joining us and giving us this opportunity to learn about wetland conservation and urban green space.
Thank you so much.
Ma'am, thank you for guiding us throughout this process. We really hope we would get chance to organize more successful events with you in future. Next, I would like to thank all the participants for joining us in the event and making it a success. Lastly, I want to thank my team, Vedehi, Renu, Samiksha, Alok, Abir, our guide Ishita, Amrita, and Aman sir for making this event a success and supporting our ideas and encouraging us to be better. Once again, thanks to all for joining the event. The certificates will be provided via mail to those who fill the feedback form, and also those interested in QGIS can register directly or apply for the quiz to get exciting discount offer for the event, for the QGIS event. All the participants of this event will get 20% discount for the QGIS event. So here, I conclude the session is over. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I
enjoyed it very much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And thanks a lot to all the participants for being a wonderful audience.
Yes.
And it would be grateful if the participants could start their videos so we can take a screenshot together and it will be as a memory with us. It's not a compulsion. If anyone who wants to start their video, they can start their video and we'll take an image together. Even from the team. Okay.
मेरा आटा छुड़वा देना, आटा छुड़वा देना, खुद बना दो.
Okay, so are there more participants who want to join us and keep this as a memory, that we remember that we all joined together from different parts of the world and learned on a very important topic?
I must congratulate your group. I can see all of you are just young people, and I'm really encouraged looking at all of you. Good that you all are taken up such a important task, important noble cause.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's just all support of people like you that who support us, and we just keeping our work ahead. So nice. I think these are the participants who are keeping their video on. So I'll take a screenshot in 3, 2, and 1.
Good. Very nice.
Just a second. I'll take one more in 3, 2, and 1. Okay, so now I have the screenshot. Thank you so much, ma'am, for imparting your valuable knowledge. Yeah. And even thank you to all the participants. Yeah. We hope to see you on our upcoming events.
Yeah, and best of luck for all your future events.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Take care. And with this, I think we can end our today's session. Okay. Bye-bye. Good night.
Bye. Good night.